Yes, guys. You already know the vibes. You know what time it is. You know what it is. It's G. We are back in the building. And yes, we're here for the derby, Manchester United versus Liverpool. If I'm being honest, still one of the biggest games in English football, no matter the competition. And this time we're obviously here for the FA Cup. So, Manchester United versus Liverpool at Old Trafford. Liverpool obviously having to go over to Manchester United. Manchester United having to host Liverpool. Manchester United's form this season, we already know it's been a bit crazy. Liverpool flying high in the Premier League, of course, bouncing after their 6-1 victory against Sparta Prague in the Europa League. So who knows which way this is going to go? Are we going to see another boring nil? Guys, make sure you're smashing the like, make sure you share and subscribe to the channel before we get into it. And of course, going to give you guys my predicted lineup, or the lineup I would like to see us go with. I'm, of course, recording this on the Friday, the 15th of March. So things may change between now and then in terms of my lineup, in terms of players who are fit and available, but we'll go with what we can go with at this current moment in time. But guys, stay tuned for the match preview. Let's get it.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Yes, people. As I said before, we're here for the match preview. Oh, this one's a big one. It's a big one. No matter, like I said, it doesn't really matter where both teams are at. When Liverpool were doing crap for like the last 30 years, shall we say, or 23, 22 years, you know, it was still a big game. It was always still a big game. Manchester United versus Liverpool. Manchester United, obviously, they were the top dogs. Liverpool were the underdogs always in every single game, every single match, every single fixture. Do you know what I mean? There's no real getting around that. But obviously, of course, since Jurgen Klopp has kind of come in, the tide it's changed completely. The landscape is totally different. Now, obviously, we don't have the success, so to speak, that Manchester United had. Of course, that's a however many year period that Sir Alex Ferguson was here and dominating the Premier League. And obviously Liverpool haven't actually done that. But I kind of, a little bit, and again, like I said, I don't want to make it seem like we've got the same level of success as Manchester United had. No, we haven't. We haven't dominated anything. So let's not even go there. And it's not even a competition because there's a clear winner, in these kind of conversations. But what I will say is I kind of understand where Manchester United fans, or how they kind of felt. Now, like I said, just before people start shooting me down, it's not going to be the same purely because of the level of dominance that Manchester United, have had, over my childhood, my teenage years and stuff like that. They were completely dominant. But in terms of when you come up against like a Manchester United, now obviously, of course, Liverpool faced Manchester United in the last like 8 years. We've absolutely slapped them on way too many occasions. The 7-0, we all remember that, 5-1s and all these crazy results, 4-1s or 5-1s, whatever it was. We scored more than 3 goals. That's what I can remember off the top of my head. But you almost come up in, I almost think about Manchester United as big as they are, one of the second biggest club, if they're the biggest, alongside Liverpool, biggest club in England, in my personal opinion. You got to understand, where they're coming from in terms of this is a club who dominated football in England anyway for so long that it just kind of got to the point where you were just like, yeah, it's just getting dumb now, commercially, off the field, on the field. They were just the top dogs, man. They were just the guys. So, yeah, I'll give it to them in that regards. But anytime now we face Manchester United, or anytime I think about Manchester United, I kind of just get this feeling of like, all right, cool. Like even the fact, and we'll talk about the game that we had against them this season where we drew 0-0 at Anfield, which was actually quite surprising. But the fact that we drew that game 0-0, that was a shock. Probably a shock to Manchester United fans. Did you get what I mean? Like, I don't know if they'll tell you that, but to me, that was a shock. And speaking to some Manchester United fans, that was a shock of a result for them because they were sitting there, Liverpool fans being a bit too cocky, in that situation, thinking we're going to get fours, fives, sixes, sevens, eights, and whatever's, but start breaking records. Ended up drawing 0-0. Do you know what I mean? Ended up drawing 0-0, drew a blank. So yeah, that was the only shot result. Other than that, we've slapped them literally every single time. So it is what it is, and that's where when we come into a game like this in an FA Cup, again, I don't know in terms of how no one's going to know how this is going to obviously pan out. I didn't expect Manchester United to come to Anfield and get that draw, especially playing the way that they did. I didn't even expect it. Now, who's to say that they can't do the exact same thing? Who's to say they won't do the exact same thing? They had chances too. I know we had chances, of course. We should have scored. They also had chances. They probably looked at and think, maybe should have scored Hoyland, So it's one of those. It's one of those, man. It's just we got to kind of wait and see, how the game kind of pans out. The lineups that obviously, of course, both managers may choose and, things like that. But, that's just going to be a thing where we just have to wait and see on that one. Form for both teams coming into a game like this. Manchester United beating Everton 2-0, losing 3-1 to United to Manchester City, beating Forest 1-0, losing 2-1 to Fulham, beating Luton 2-1. Liverpool obviously bouncing off that 6-1 victory, drawing to Manchester City. Of course, Sparta Prague again, beating Forest 1-0 and beating Southampton 3-0 in that time. So, of course, when you look at that straight off the rip, you can see Liverpool got no reds. Do you know what I mean? No red on their side. And we've obviously, been playing really, really well in that time period. Whereas Manchester United, it's kind of just been kind of on and off form. And to be honest with you, that's just kind of been their season. If I'm being, I know this is FA Cup, but still, that's just been their season. Just they're consistent at being inconsistent. That's one thing I'll say, about Manchester United. But again, like I said before, it really just depends on so many different kind of factors, kind of factors. If I take a look quickly here at, we'll take a look at this. Yeah. If we take a look here, now, like I said, I'm filming this on the Friday, so this may change. This might be different, come the weekend and stuff like that in terms of who's available. But one of the big ones that I saw was obviously Hoyland. He's going to be a doubt. Well, it says doubtful whether that means he's going to be available for the game potentially, whether it's a touch and go. I don't know, but he's definitely one player to look out for in Liverpool's case. Obviously, Malacia still there. Mason Mount, we don't know about him. Shaw, obviously injured. Lissandro Martinez, another big player, that they're missing this season. Harry Maguire, as much as we laugh at Harry Maguire, you know what I mean? And in the time prior to him getting injured, he was doing all right. You know what I mean? He was actually doing all right. Martial being Martial, and then Aaron Wan-Bissaka, again, another player that they might look at. But then you look at, of course, Liverpool's, and you can see host of players, Alisson Becker's, the Curtis Jones, Diogo Jota, Konate's, the Matips, Thiago's, the Trents. That's just like players who probably would slot straight into the team. So both teams, of course, are missing players. So it's not to even sit here and say boo-hoo to just one team. It's both teams are going to be missing players, for a game like this. And where this game is, of such high magnitude, just in a general sense, it's going to be so interesting to see the way that, Manchester United more so approach this game. We kind of know Liverpool quite predictable. You kind of know what they're about. You know what they're going to do. It's just about stopping it. It's the Iron Robin effect. That's what Liverpool remind me of so much. They do the same thing over and over again, but you can't stop it. You actually can't stop it. Do you get what I mean? Like, there's no real way, in my personal opinion, to, at this moment in time anyway, to really stop it, unless you potentially play the way, that Manchester United played in that 1-1 draw that they had against us. So when we look here, in this game, if I just get this up for you, you can obviously see this was their lineup for the match against us. Obviously, they had Hoyland up front, playing that lone striker role. Anthony on one side, Garnacho on the other side, Amrabat, Maino in there. Maino I really, really like. I think he's a good player. I think he's a player to, I don't want to say watch out for, but he's a player who can influence things if kind of given the time to do so. if he's given the time to do so. If you sleep, like he's a player, you can't sleep on players like this. That's the kind of guy that I'm kind of looking at. And then obviously their back four is their back four. As I mentioned, Shaw's not going to be available for this game, but the way that they defended throughout the entirety of the game, and you'll notice straight away one big player that's actually missing is their captain, Bruno Fernandes. I always feel like in a game like this, Bruno Fernandes, nah, man, I feel like it's weird because he's Manchester United's captain. So on one hand, you're like, well, he's their captain, so he should just be playing by default. And listen, he probably will play if he's available to do so. But at the same time, I just feel like certain characters do well in these type of fixtures, high pressure fixtures, derby game. Do you know what I mean? Two clubs don't like each other, all of that kind of stuff. So when you got a game like this where the pressure might be ranked up a bit, certain players they just handle it differently, and I just feel like in a fixture like this, he's not the one unless he can keep a cool head, and he's a good enough player. As much as we get on to Bruno Fernandes, he's actually a pretty decent player. I actually think he is actually pretty decent. But if he does get a foothold of the game, if he was to play, then that could of course cause some issue. And one player who didn't even wasn't in that starting 11 there, of course, is Marcus Rashford. And Rashford again, another player. I don't mind Rashford. You know what I mean? Like he's a weird player. He's such a weird player. Like I don't know what Rashford is going to turn up in this game. Is this going to be the Rashford that bagged 30 on everyone's head top? The previous season, or is this going to be the Rashford that we've kind of been seeing this season, where it's almost like pre-last season's Rashford, where you're super inconsistent? I have no idea. And I think that's the thing about Manchester United when I think about it, and even when I was thinking about like our lineup and how we should play and stuff like that. Like I said before, I think Liverpool will play the way that they always play regardless. And Manchester United, it's just about how they feel they should play in a game like this. Obviously, even in this game, to be honest, it's even more embarrassing because we had Salah, we had obviously, Van Dijk, Kanate, Trent, Szoboszlai in there, Diaz, Nunes. Like, it's not like we had a weak team. We can't use that excuse of, but we had so many players. This is probably our strongest team. Some people's knowledge, obviously, and Gravenberch, obviously, in there. There's obviously an argument for Diogo Jota coming in there, probably, for Diaz or something like that. Like outside, and Tsimikas for Gomez or Robbo. It's Alisson Becker's obviously in there. Like, yeah, it's one of those, man. It's one of those, and I think if Manchester United, and I don't want them to win, but if they're looking to try and win this game, I think they're going to try and implement a lot of what they did in this match. But it's just whether or not Liverpool have learned their lesson from that game. If Liverpool have learned their lesson, then cool. Do you know what I mean? We'll be able to go into this match with kind of at least we've got the know-how in terms of, okay, so if they play this way, we need to figure out a way of how we can potentially, I want to say break it down so much, because we did have chances. You know what I mean? We did have chances to, of course, win the game, but at the same time, we just could not put the ball in the back of the net. 34 shots in that game, 8 on target. That's in itself is quite embarrassing. So that's yeah, that in itself is really, really bad. It's like every 4 shots we're getting on target. That's not good enough. With only one big chance in the entirety of the game. In all the 34 shots you had one big chance. But again, that's probably more testament to, Manchester United really and truly nullifying Liverpool in that sense, where you can only get one big chance in the game. You can have all the shots in the world. This looks nice. This 34 shots thing, it looks great. Of course it looks great because it's 34 shots. You know what I mean? But if the 34 shots are not really going to amount to anything and you're only getting one big chance and you've got 8 on target, come on, man. 8 fours are what, 32? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's where you're looking at it and you're thinking, eesh, yeah, that's where it becomes a little bit tricky for Liverpool. But of course, we'll have to just kind of wait and see on that one in terms of how the game is going to pan out. But when we then take a look at my lineup, we'll take a look at it now. So yeah, this is the lineup that I would like to kind of go with, if permitting everyone's kind of the players I think who are going to be available anyway. Of course, like I said before, things may eventually change. Hopefully you guys can see that there. Yeah, boom, there you go. So obviously you've got Keller in goal, two centre backs. Now again, I don't know the situation with Kwanzaa and Kanate, whether Kanate is going to play, whether he's going to be available. If Kanate is available, Kanate will be the one that we can slot straight back in there. But if not, I'm good with Van Dijk and Kanate and Kwanzaa. Bradley obviously at right back, and I've gone with Robbo purely because obviously we had Gomez play the other night against Sparta Prague. I know he came off, but I just thinking maybe a game like this, maybe I don't mind, Robertson, of course, playing in this match again. If things are not working out, if he's getting cooked all game, down that side, then yeah, cool, you can take him up. But I think with the front three that I've got here in Diaz, Nunes, and Salah, maybe having someone like and Andrew Robertson might just help us a little bit better, in my personal, just a little bit, not nothing major, nothing crazy, but I just think that he might just offer us just that little bit more. We had Simicast the last time we played them. I just think Robertson will provide us with a bit more enthusiasm, and especially in a game like this where we're going to need the enthusiasm, we're going to need the heart, we're going to need the desire, we're going to need all of these buzzwords that everyone loves with Jurgen Klopp. Midfield, I've gone with Endo, McAllister, and Elliott. Now the reason why I've gone with Elliott on the right and McAllister on the left is just purely because I think Elliott will potentially come back in. Where he comes back in, I don't really know, but I think he would come back in. So Bozolai again played the other night, played pretty well. I mean, that game the other night, I haven't done a match reaction to it. That game that was actually boring. It was actually a boring victory because the team we played against was so rubbish. So it's very difficult to really tell in these kind of fixtures. I don't really learn a lot from games like this. I don't really see anything from games like this, so to speak. I'm not even saying you have to necessarily always have a test, to be able to see something. It's just when it's that easy, it's almost like Jesus Christ. Like I can't judge anything, so I didn't feel the need to have to do a whole match reaction because I was like, what is there to really rate? do you know what I mean? So I kind of left it at that. But yeah, so Bozolai was absolutely fine in that game. Just speaking of that performance, but I just think Elliott has deserved it. He's played really, really well in the last few weeks, in the last few games, and I think between him and McAllister, I don't think it's always going to be McAllister on the left here and Elliott on the right. I think sometimes this will end up happening, between the two players. I don't know why I didn't just click it, but this may potentially happen, just like that, Elliott on that side or McAllister on that side, kind of maybe even forming here on that left mid, right midfield kind of areas to potentially close the spaces and help out with whoever United play, on the wings and things like that. Again, I have no idea who they might potentially play there. And then, of course, you've got Diaz, Nunes, and Salah. I think that one's pretty easy. Can't see who else would realistically come into a game like this. Gakpo, I know he got his couple of goals the other night. That'll probably do him the world of good. But in a general sense, I don't really see, what's going to happen. What we'll see is probably mostly this stuff. This usually happening. And obviously Mo Salah just kind of occupying these areas here. So I'm hoping he doesn't have a quiet game in a game like this, but it's more Elliott and McAllister that I'm looking at. And I'm thinking to myself, these two are going to be quite pivotal in one, retaining the ball, keeping possession. But of course, McAllister, because he's been playing so well in that right central midfield area, picking up the ball in some areas like here, and almost forming a double pivot, alongside Endo, leaving that third midfielder to either cover space here and play there, which then means he has to potentially drop if it's Nunes there, and then he kind of comes in, and then we're almost in this. Let me even just move it a little bit more. Almost kind of like a box with Endo kind of being that spare man there to kind of help out if Liverpool do, of course, lose the ball. But of course, if the ball's obviously on that left-hand side, but again, if the ball's on the right-hand side, it's kind of the exact same thing. And then boom, you've got McAllister in that same position where then cool, Liverpool going to form that box. So it really just does depend on how Jurgen Klopp wants to play it, how he sees it, what he thinks is the best thing to do in a game like this. Again, I wouldn't mind having, I wouldn't mind it being like this, and I also wouldn't mind it being like that because I know that they're going to interchange, and the midfield do that quite well. Even the centre backs we saw in one of Liverpool's last game, not against Sparta Prague, against Manchester City, we did actually see Kwanzaa and Van Dijk swapping quite a few times in the game. But again, that was just due to Manchester City's tactics at times trying to go, trying to hit the ball long into Haaland, or, looking for that second ball, the knockdown, so that they can play and start playing further up the pitch as opposed to, so far back, because they know with Liverpool's press that can be problematic. So there's many different ways I think Liverpool can play this. It just depends on if Jurgen Klopp, feels the need, to do so. But that's the team that I would go with. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is there anybody else? Like I said, I'm filming this on Friday the 15th, so things may change in terms of availability of players. Like I said, and it's probably only really going to be Kanate. Szoboszlai might potentially start in this game instead. Gomez may potentially start again. All viable options, all the good enough options. I'm not really too fussed, if I'm being totally honest with you. But I know that Jurgen Klopp, with this being the last game before the international break, I think, he's going to want to try and go as strong as he possibly can, or as he possibly feels he can, in a game like this. And of course, you've got Mo Salah there. What more can we say on the king? Mr. 20 goals in all competitions for the last 7 seasons. There's nothing more we need to say on things like that, man. But yeah, that's my predicted lineup. I'm gonna go over scoreline of Liverpool 2, Manchester United 1. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be kind of a bit similar to the game that we had at Anfield. Manchester United will try it. I think they will score first. Did so against Manchester City and ended up losing 3-1. But I think Liverpool will end up coming back late in that second half. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys, of course, think in the comment section below. As I mentioned before, Manchester United versus Liverpool preview. Let's hope we can get the win before the international break, so then we can have a few players who are not going away for internationals. Then we can, just have a little break, man. Just a little break. I think we've had so many games. Players are going to start coming back, the Allisons, the Trents, and things like that. Hopefully they come back after the international break, fit and ready, and obviously continue with this charge for more trophies. But guys, that is the match preview done and dusted. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm G, and we are out.